The Shroud of Turin, often regarded as one of the most enigmatic and debated artifacts in religious and scientific history, has captivated the imagination of people across the globe for centuries. This ancient linen cloth, measuring approximately 4.4 meters in length and 1.1 meters in width, is believed by some to be the burial shroud of Jesus Christ. The cloth bears the faint but unmistakable image of a man who appears to have endured physical torment, bearing the marks consistent with crucifixion, including wounds on his wrists, feet, side, and head. It is a chilling and deeply significant image, one that has led to countless studies, investigations, and controversies regarding its authenticity and origins. The mystery of the shroud lies not only in the image it bears, but in the very nature of the image itself. Unlike typical paintings or photographs, which are made by applying pigment to the surface of the fabric, the image on the shroud is embedded within the fibers of the linen itself. The image has an almost photographic quality, with incredible detail, including the portrayal of bloodstains, bruises, and marks consistent with a brutal beating and crucifixion. This level of detail has led many to wonder, how could such an image have been created and what are its origins? The image appears to be something of a paradox. Scientific analyses have revealed that the image is not created by pigment, dye, or any known painting technique, yet it remains sharp and clear. It does not seem to follow the usual methods of image making, raising questions about the processes that could have been involved. To this day, there is no definitive explanation for how the image was formed on the cloth, making it one of the most perplexing mysteries in both religious and scientific circles. Historical journey and first appearances of the shroud. The Shroud of Turin's history is as elusive as its origin. While the cloth has been in Turin, Italy since 1578, its first known appearance was recorded in the 14th century, around 1355. It was then displayed in the small French town of Relics by a knight named Geoffroy de Charny. The details of how Charny obtained the shroud remain unclear, and no direct records exist linking it to the time of Christ or the immediate aftermath of his crucifixion. However, it is believed that the shroud passed through a variety of hands before it eventually became part of the House of Savoy collection, which helped preserve it for the public eye. The shroud's early history was not without controversy. It was displayed as a relic of the Passion of Christ, and it became an object of veneration for many Christians. However, questions about its authenticity arose almost immediately, and it was criticized by some as a forgery. The church at that time remained cautious, and while the shroud was often displayed for public devotion, it was not always openly proclaimed as the actual burial cloth of Christ. This ambiguity regarding its origins and authenticity has continued throughout the shroud's long history. Throughout the centuries, the shroud survived several perilous events, including a devastating fire in 1532. During this incident, a portion of the cloth was severely burned, leaving dark scorch marks and water stains. Despite this, the shroud was restored and continues to be preserved. More recently, efforts have been made to preserve and protect the shroud, including restoration work in 2002 that involved cleaning and restoring the fabric after centuries of handling and wear. Scientific investigations and the carbon-14 dating debate. One of the most significant moments in the shroud's modern history came in 1988, when carbon-14 dating was conducted on a sample of the cloth. This method of dating involves measuring the amount of radioactive carbon isotopes in a sample to determine its age. The results of the testing, carried out by 3 laboratories in Oxford, Zurich, and Arizona, concluded that the shroud dated from between 1260 and 1390 CE. This placed the shroud's origin squarely in the medieval period, suggesting that it was a product of the Middle Ages, most likely a clever forgery designed to deceive people into thinking it was the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. The carbon-14 dating was widely accepted at the time and led many to believe that the shroud was not the authentic burial cloth of Jesus. However, the results of the carbon-14 testing have since been contested by several researchers. Critics argue that the sample taken for testing was not representative of the entire cloth, as it was taken from a corner that had been repaired after the 1532 fire. It is theorized that the restoration process may have contaminated the fabric, skewing the results of the carbon dating. Additionally, the shroud's exposure to centuries of environmental conditions, smoke, and other contaminants could have contributed to inaccurate carbon-14 readings. Furthermore, some researchers have pointed out that the carbon dating results do not account for the possibility of a miraculous event that could have occurred in the shroud's creation. One popular hypothesis is that the image on the shroud was formed through some form of energy or radiation, perhaps at the moment of Jesus' resurrection, which might have altered the fabric in such a way that it could not be detected by conventional methods of dating. The image of the shroud and its mystifying properties. While the debate over the carbon dating continues, the image on the shroud remains a central point of fascination. The figure depicted on the cloth shows a man who has been severely beaten and crucified, with wounds consistent with the accounts of Jesus' passion in the New Testament. The man's hands and feet are pierced, and there is a large wound in his side, as well as markings on his scalp suggesting a crown of thorns. The details of the image are remarkably consistent with historical accounts of crucifixion, and to many, appear to be beyond the capabilities of medieval artists. Several aspects of the image itself are particularly intriguing. For one, the image appears to be three-dimensional. In 1978, a team of scientists and researchers known as the Shroud of Turin Research Project, STURP, used a variety of imaging technologies, including ultraviolet light and X-rays, to examine the cloth. They found that the image on the shroud seemed to contain three-dimensional information, which is something that cannot be explained by conventional art techniques. The three-dimensional effect was most clearly demonstrated when the shroud's image was analyzed using a VP8 image analyzer, a device originally designed by NASA to analyze photographs taken by space probes. The machine revealed that the shroud's image was not flat, but contained depth information, as if it had been somehow encoded in the fabric. This three-dimensional property is not something that can be created with the painting or photographic techniques available in the medieval period. Another feature of the shroud is the lack of compression marks. Normally, when a body is wrapped in a cloth, the weight of the body presses down on the fabric, creating compression marks. However, the shroud shows no evidence of such compression in certain areas, such as the back of the man depicted on the cloth. Some researchers have suggested that this could mean the body was not lying flat on a surface when the image was formed, further raising questions about how the image came to be. Other scientific investigations and theories. There have been numerous other scientific studies and experiments aimed at explaining the shroud's origins. In 2013, a team of researchers analyzed the dust particles on the shroud, which revealed that they contained high levels of limestone, consistent with particles found in ancient Jerusalem. This discovery suggests that the shroud may have originated in the region of the Holy Land. Some have even proposed that the image on the shroud may have been formed through some form of energy burst or radiation, possibly occurring during the resurrection of Christ, which could have left a lasting imprint on the fabric. Additionally, the shroud's bloodstains have been a subject of scrutiny. Researchers have found that the blood on the shroud is type AB, a rare blood type that is consistent with blood samples found in ancient Mediterranean populations. This discovery has led some to suggest that the shroud is, indeed, an authentic relic from the time of Christ, although this claim remains disputed by many scholars. Throughout the centuries, the Shroud of Turin has remained one of the most scrutinized and mysterious artifacts in history. It continues to be a subject of intense debate, with some believers maintaining that it is the genuine burial cloth of Jesus Christ, while others argue that it is a medieval forgery. Regardless of its true origin, the shroud's captivating image and the mysteries surrounding its creation continue to fascinate people worldwide. Whether seen as a miraculous relic or a medieval creation, the Shroud of Turin remains an enduring symbol of faith, mystery, and human curiosity. The Shroud of Turin, an ancient piece of cloth that some believe bears the image of Jesus Christ, has long been a focal point of mystery and intrigue. The marks and images on the cloth have drawn attention from both religious and scientific communities, each interpreting it in different ways. From a historical standpoint, the wounds visible on the shroud seem to align with the techniques of crucifixion commonly used by the Romans. For example, the nails appear to have been driven through the wrists rather than the palms of the hands. This observation is significant because modern medical understanding suggests that if the nails had gone through the palms, the weight of the body would have torn the skin, making it an unreliable method of crucifixion. Instead, piercing through the wrist would have been a more effective way to support the body during the crucifixion process. Additionally, there is a deep, elongated wound on the side of the chest that aligns with the biblical description of a spear thrust into the body, confirming the account in the scriptures. Bloodstains found on the skull of the image also suggest puncture wounds, potentially caused by a sharp instrument. These findings are significant because they closely mirror the details of the Passion of Christ as described in Christian scripture. However, it's important to emphasize that these conclusions are rooted in scientific analysis and not theological assertions, even though the marks on the shroud are often likened to the wounds mentioned in religious texts. From an Islamic perspective, the interpretation of the Shroud of Turin is vastly different. The Quran makes it absolutely clear that Prophet Isa was neither crucified nor killed. This position is clearly stated in Surah An-Nisa 4:157, where it says, "They did not kill him, nor did they crucify him, but it was made to appear so to them." This passage rejects the idea that Jesus was crucified, which stands in direct contrast to Christian beliefs. The verse from the Quran is considered a cornerstone of Islamic doctrine, emphasizing that the crucifixion is a misconception or illusion. In Islamic tradition, it is believed that Allah took Prophet Isa up to himself, and that Isa will return before the Day of Judgment. This belief is deeply entrenched in Islamic teachings, and the claim of the crucifixion, whether supported by the Shroud of Turin or not, does not alter the core belief system. For Muslims, the reality of Prophet Isa's fate as outlined in the Quran is considered to be beyond debate or question, regardless of any historical artifacts that might suggest otherwise. The Shroud of Turin, therefore, does not hold religious authority for Muslims. While it may be of interest as an object of historical study or as a potential artifact from the time of Jesus, it is not seen as evidence of divine truth or proof of any religious claims. Nonetheless, the shroud itself has sparked extensive scientific investigation over the years, as it remains one of the most puzzling relics in human history. Despite numerous studies, no one has been able to replicate the image on the cloth using the materials and methods available in today's world. The mystery of how the image was formed continues to challenge scientific understanding. Whether the shroud is a medieval forgery, a burial cloth that has been misunderstood over time, or perhaps an elaborate hoax. No one has yet managed to explain fully how the image appeared on the fabric. This ongoing mystery places the Shroud of Turin in a unique position, one where science and history intersect, creating a puzzle that refuses to be solved. Regardless of its origins or purpose, the shroud continues to be an object of fascination, not just for those with religious interests, but for anyone interested in the limits of scientific knowledge. One of the most intriguing aspects of the shroud is its continued ability to confound the best minds in science and history. Researchers have attempted various techniques to replicate the image or to determine its origin, but so far, none have been able to offer a definitive explanation. Some have suggested that it could be a product of medieval technology, a clever trick from an age of limited scientific knowledge. Others believe it could be a genuine ancient relic, perhaps even one linked to the time of Jesus. Still, there are those who consider it an elaborate fake, created with great skill to deceive people into believing it has religious significance. Whatever the case may be, the shroud represents something more than just a religious artifact. It speaks to humanity's ongoing quest to understand its past, the limits of technology, and the desire to unravel the mysteries of history. The Shroud of Turin, then, is not simply a religious object or a symbol of divine intervention, but rather a fascinating historical and scientific mystery. It raises profound questions about the nature of religious artifacts and their ability to withstand scrutiny over time. While it may not be recognized as a definitive piece of evidence for religious truths in the Islamic faith, it remains an important part of human history, one that continues to intrigue scholars, scientists, and lay people alike. Through it, we are reminded that the pursuit of knowledge, whether religious, scientific, or historical, often leads us into uncharted territory, where the answers we seek are not always as clear as we would like them to be. Thank you for watching and exploring the mystery of the Shroud of Turin with us. If you found this topic interesting, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. What do you think? Could it be the burial cloth of Jesus, or is it a medieval creation? Make sure to subscribe for more fascinating content. Thanks again for your support, and we'll see you in the next video.